my hang with Paul McCartney. So February 15th, 1990, Market Square Arena, Indianapolis, Indiana. So it goes without saying I'm a huge Beatlemaniac, but really, who isn't? And don't chime in the comments and just tell the world you're stupid. And I know I have my fair share of pictures with famous people, but I'm not that guy. I'm not like the can I get a selfie? Like, I have a few, and they're reserved for like very special moments. So at the time I was working for this music publishing company in Chicago, and my boss was an old Scotsman musician. And he came up in music with this guy named Hamish Stewart. And Hamish Stewart was in this incredible band called the Average White Band. And Hamish had gotten me tickets to see Paul and the band a couple months earlier in December in Chicago. But he couldn't get me a backstage pass. And he says, listen, mate, if you want to meet him, if you want to meet everybody and have a hang, don't come to a major city because we know people in all of them and it's just jam-packed. Come to a small town. So I asked him to hook me up for Indianapolis, and me and my two friends, Scott and Eli, drove there. And back in those days, I spent a lot of time in recording studios and being part of making records. And I was obsessed with producing and engineering and recording technique. And I was kind of a geek, and still am. And so me and the guys are backstage, and we're looking around. Nobody's there. But I noticed Bob Clearmountain, this legend, is behind a mixing console backstage. And I'm like, oh my God, look, there's Bob Clearmountain. I was like starstruck from an engineer. So we're talking to Bob, and we're looking at all the gear, and we're like sheepish and shy. And then Eli says to me, he's coming. He's behind you. I said, who? He goes, Paul. I said, get the fuck out of here. He goes, no, I'm serious. He's coming over here right now. And Paul says, oh, checking out the gear, are you? And I'm like, and he says, thank you for coming. Lovely to meet you. And we're chatting for a few minutes. And he's really nice. And then he says, I'm going to go back to my dressing room. You want to join? And I said, yeah. So we go in his dressing room, and it's nice. It's got like, 2 sofas and 2 chairs and like a full setup. He says, can I get you a beer? Can I get you a cup of tea? And I'm like, I'll have a cup of tea with you, Paul McCartney. And Scott says same. And Eli says, I'll have a beer. So we sit down on this sofa and we start chatting. And Scott's asking him like dorky songwriting questions. And he's just like, what's your songwriting process? And Paul says, John and I would just spend a few minutes. If it didn't come together in a few minutes, we would just crumple it up and throw it in the trash and start anew. And then I make a dumb joke and I say, I would have loved to dig through your trash can. He said, no, you wouldn't. They were utter rubbish. So this is more than a meet and greet. We are shooting the breeze for a good 30 minutes. And and I'm doing most of the talking because I talk too much, as you guys know. And he says, Scott, what's your surname? And I said, oh, Nathan. He says, are you Jewish? I said, I am. And he says, oh, come. I must introduce you to me daughters or Linda will kill me. And then I'm like, what? And then it occurs to me as we're standing up that Linda Eastman, Linda McCartney, was Jewish. So we're walking the hallways, and we have a quick meeting with his daughter, Mary, who's a dark-haired one. And then we run into the other one. And he says, oh, this is me youngest one, Stella. And he grabs her by her face. He's like, look at me cute little ginger. And she's like, stop it. You're embarrassing me. So I said, I hate to ask. And if it's not an imposition, would you please sign my white album? And can we take a picture? And Stella McCartney took this photo of me and Paul. Now, I'm a few years older than Stella, which wouldn't matter at any older age. But at that young age, it was kind of a big age gap. And she says to me, she goes, you don't want to watch this dumb show? Hang out with me for the show. And I said, I really want to see the show. Why don't you come out there and come watch the show with me and my friends? And she goes, I see the show every night. I don't want to see it. Just hang out with me. And I said, no. So then Paul comes back and he goes, walk me to the stage? And we're like, F yeah. Walk down the hallways and we go through the velvet curtain. And it was so surreal. And Paul walks up 3 steps, reaches back, shakes our hands, and he's like, lovely to meet you. And bam, white lights come on. He throws a fist in the air, and we're just like, ah, and that was it. Was it a mistake not hanging out with Stella and getting to know her better? Maybe. Could I date a lifer vegan? Probably not. I don't know.